She thought she knew her life. But a shocking secret from her past is about to change everything. Abandoned as a baby, raised by a kind billionaire, Lila's world turns upside down the moment she meets a mysterious woman with a haunting connection to her. What really happened to her parents? And can she ever forgive the truth? Watch till the end to find out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible true story dramas. The night was unusually cold for early spring. Rain had fallen earlier, leaving the narrow alley glistening under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp. The world was quiet here, quiet enough that the faintest sound could echo endlessly against the brick walls. That's when Julian first saw her. A small, fragile shape in the shadows drew his attention. At first, he thought it might be a discarded bundle of clothes or some stray animal seeking shelter. But as he stepped closer, his eyes widened and his heart sank. There, in the middle of the alley, lay a small casket-like box, slightly cracked, with the faint odor of damp wood mixing with the smell of the wet pavement. He knelt down cautiously, his palms trembling as he lifted the lid. Inside was a baby girl, no more than a few months old. Her tiny body was curled as if in sleep, but Julian could feel the faint, miraculous warmth of life beneath her soft blanket. She was pale, her skin delicate and smooth, untouched by the hardships of the world, yet abandoned in it, and on her wrist, barely visible in the dim light, was a small tattoo-like symbol of wings. Julian didn't understand its meaning at first, but he instinctively knew it was special. Someone had cared enough to leave a mark, a message, a promise, or perhaps a hope, but he couldn't guess what. Julian's chest tightened. Shock gave way to heartbreak, a deep, aching sorrow that rooted him to the spot. How could anyone abandon such innocence? How could a parent leave their child to fate in a cold alley? He looked around, searching for a clue, a note, a sign of the people who had done this. But the alley offered nothing. Only the baby, her quiet breaths, and the mysterious wings on her tiny wrist. He gathered her gently, cradling her in his arms. Every instinct in him screamed to protect, to shield her from a world that could be cruel and unkind. That night, Julian, a 24-year-old billionaire with a reputation for kindness but otherwise a quiet, reserved life, made a decision that would change both of their lives forever. He would not leave her there. He would save her. In the days that followed, Julian contacted the authorities. Police officers arrived at his luxurious penthouse, treating the matter with urgency and care. Together they tried to trace her parents, leaving no stone unturned. Social services, missing persons reports, and hospital records, all were checked. But the search yielded nothing. No one had reported her missing, no clues led anywhere. The winged mark on her wrist remained an enigma, a delicate symbol that no one could explain. Weeks turned into months. Julian poured his heart into the search, willing to spend every resource and every moment trying to uncover her past. But 1 year passed, and the trail went cold. The authorities, tired and frustrated, eventually advised him to move on, to stop searching endlessly. Julian refused to abandon hope entirely, but he understood that he could not force the world to reveal its secrets. It was then that Julian made another decision, a choice that was far more personal and profound. If her biological parents would not return for her, if no one else would care for this child, he would become her family. Not just a guardian, not just a benefactor, but a father, a mother, and everything in between. He would raise her, protect her, and ensure she knew love in a world that had almost denied her the chance. From that moment on, Julian and the baby, now named Lila, began their life together. Julian built a routine around her, from midnight feedings to early morning walks in the sunlit park, from gentle lullabies to bedtime stories whispered in her tiny ears. He became attuned to her every need, learning the delicate rhythm of her breathing, the slight curl of her hand, the way her eyes would light up at the sound of his voice. Each small smile, each soft coo became a treasure. Lila grew under Julian's unwavering care. Her childhood was filled with love, attention, and stability, things she might never have known if fate had been cruel. She learned manners and kindness, curiosity and courage, all nurtured by the man who had saved her life. She was intelligent, empathetic, and gentle, yet strong, qualities that Julian had noticed from the moment he first held her in the alley. Despite the absence of a mother figure in her home, Lila never felt lonely. Julian's warmth and patience filled every gap. He read to her at night, taught her the names of stars and planets, and told her stories that sparked her imagination. He even laughed with her at silly jokes, played games, and celebrated every milestone as if the world had conspired to grant them these moments of joy. And yet, the winged mark on her wrist remained a mystery between them. Julian would glance at it sometimes, wondering why her biological parents had chosen to leave it, what meaning it held, and why it seemed to shine with a quiet, enigmatic beauty. He never forced her to ask about it, never made her feel the absence of answers. Instead, he simply loved her, wholly and completely, as if he could rewrite the wrongs of the past with the love he gave her every day. By the time Lila turned 5, she knew Julian as her father in every sense of the word. She called him Dad without hesitation, leaned on him for comfort, and looked to him for guidance. To her, he was the world, a safe harbor, a protector, a hero who had rescued her from nothingness and filled her life with everything she could ever need. As she grew, the bond only deepened. Julian taught her compassion by example, showing her how to care for animals, how to help those in need, and how to speak gently to others even when the world was harsh. Lila absorbed these lessons with wide-eyed enthusiasm, always trying to emulate the kind, patient man who had given her life a second chance. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers who met them could see the extraordinary bond they shared. Julian was patient, attentive, and ever watchful. Lila was radiant, confident, and joyful. Together they were a picture of perfect harmony, a family formed not by blood, but by choice and unwavering love. Despite the comfort and happiness, a small part of Julian's mind always lingered on her past. The winged mark was a silent reminder of the mother she had lost, the parents who had abandoned her. He knew one day Lila might ask, might wonder, and he hoped he would be able to give her the strength and truth she deserved. As Lila entered the age of 8, she began to notice the world outside their home. Children with mothers and fathers, families laughing together at playgrounds, classmates sharing stories of parents' love. She never questioned her father's devotion, but the seed of curiosity about her own origins quietly took root. Julian watched her with understanding, never pushing her, but ready to guide her when the day came. By the time she reached 10, Lila had grown into a bright, polite, and spirited young girl. She excelled in school, befriended classmates with ease, and always carried herself with the grace and confidence Julian had nurtured in her. Yet the world was never far from her mind, and she sometimes wondered about the mother she had never known. Julian, for his part, remained her unwavering anchor. He attended every school play, every recital, every small victory, and every little setback. And through it all, the winged mark remained, a quiet symbol of the life she had been given and the mysteries that would someday unfold. By the end of these early years, Lila's life had been shaped entirely by love and care, and yet the unanswered questions of her origin lingered in the background, waiting for the day she would grow old enough to ask them. Julian had given her everything a parent could offer, and in return, she gave him the simple, profound gift of her trust and adoration. What had begun as a cold, lonely night in an alley had transformed into a life filled with warmth, security, and hope. All because one man had dared to step forward and save a baby abandoned by fate. The story of Lila and Julian was just beginning, but the foundation of love and devotion had already been laid, strong enough to carry them through whatever secrets the future might reveal. The years passed quickly, as they always do, though Julian sometimes felt they slipped through his fingers far too fast. Lila, once a tiny, fragile infant cradled in his arms, was now growing into a young girl with wide, curious eyes, a smile that could light up any room, and a mind that thirsted for answers. Julian watched her with a mixture of pride and quiet apprehension, knowing that the innocence he had protected so carefully would one day collide with the realities of the world. including the world she had been taken from. By the time Lila reached her early teens, the questions had begun to stir. School had opened her eyes to the existence of families different from her own. Classmates would chatter about their mothers and fathers, sharing stories of weekend trips, birthday traditions, or simple everyday routines that she had never experienced. While Julian had provided a home overflowing with love, warmth, and stability, Lila couldn't help but feel the absence of her biological mother, the one person whose love she had never known. She had always adored Julian, calling him Dad with natural ease. He was her rock, her protector, her confidant. Yet in quiet moments, when she was alone in her room, her gaze would drift to the small tattoo-like mark on her wrist, the wings etched delicately into her skin, a reminder of a life she had been forced to leave behind. She would trace the curves of the wings with her finger, wondering what they truly meant, and why someone would leave her with a symbol of flight in such a hopeless place. It wasn't until she turned 13 that she finally found the courage to ask. They were sitting together in the living room on a rainy afternoon, the soft patter of rain against the windows blending with the faint hum of classical music from the speakers. Julian was reading quietly, a book of poetry in his hands, when Lila, feeling the weight of curiosity and the gnawing questions she had been carrying for years, spoke up. "Dad, can I ask you something?" she said, her voice hesitant but resolute. Julian looked up, his eyes meeting hers. He had learned to read her moods over the years, when she was excited, when she was thoughtful, and now, when something deeper troubled her. "Of course, Lila. You can ask me anything," he replied gently, setting the book aside. I've been thinking," she continued, twisting the hem of her shirt nervously. "All my friends have their moms and dads, but I only have you. Where is my mom?" The question hung in the air, heavier than Julian had anticipated. He had known this day would come eventually, but hearing it aloud made it real in a way that unsettled him. He took a deep breath, knowing he could no longer protect her from the truth if he wanted her to understand her own life fully. "Lila," he began softly, "you were found when you were just a baby. Abandoned, left in an alley. I found you and I brought you home. Since then, I've tried to find your parents, to give you answers, but no one knows where they are. No one came looking for you, and so I made a choice. I decided to be your family completely. I raised you as my daughter because I couldn't let you go without love." Lila's eyes widened as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Shock quickly gave way to a bitter, burning anger. They left me?" she whispered, almost to herself. "My own parents? They just abandoned me?" Julian reached for her hand, holding it tightly. "I know it's hard to understand. I know it hurts, but I want you to know. None of this is your fault. You were never to blame, and I will always be here for you. Always." Tears welled up in Lila's eyes, spilling over as she turned her gaze to the wing mark on her wrist. The symbol seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, a silent testament to the life she had been given and the life she had lost. Julian had never been able to explain its origin, only to promise that it was special and that it had somehow guided her to him. Now, as she stared at it, the mark felt like a secret she had yet to uncover, a message left by the mother she would one day long to know. The revelation left her restless for weeks. She loved Julian more than anyone in the world, and she understood that he had saved her from a fate that could have been far worse. And yet, the anger toward her biological parents, the ones who had chosen abandonment over love, simmered beneath the surface, sharp and unyielding. She would catch herself imagining the choices they had made, the indifference that allowed them to leave a baby in a cold alley, and her chest would tighten with a mixture of grief and fury. As the years rolled on, Lila's relationship with Julian grew ever stronger, a bond forged in love, trust, and shared experiences. But the curiosity about her origins never fully dissipated. She would sometimes ask about the mark, about the mysterious symbol of wings on her wrist, and Julian would smile wistfully. "One day you'll understand," he would say, brushing her hair back from her face. "And when that day comes, you'll see why it was always meant to be." That day came on her 16th birthday, a day that promised celebration but would ultimately bring revelation. Julian had planned a quiet but joyful dinner at one of the city's finest restaurants, a place where the dim lighting and elegant decor made every moment feel special. Lila wore a soft, flowing dress, her hair curled delicately around her shoulders, and her eyes sparkled with excitement. Julian, ever the gentleman, had arranged a small surprise for her. A cake decorated with delicate sugar wings, a nod to the mark on her wrist that had become a symbol of her journey. The evening began with laughter and stories. Julian spoke of his pride in her growth, of the achievements she had accomplished, and of the extraordinary person she had become. Friends and classmates joined in, offering gifts and warm wishes, but Lila's attention remained fixed on Julian. He had been her constant, her protector, her father. Every smile, every gesture of love that he had shown her over the years seemed magnified on this special night. As the dinner concluded and the cake was served, Lila felt a sense of contentment she had rarely experienced. She had been given a life full of love and security, a life that many could only dream of. For a moment, the past, the abandonment, the unanswered questions, the mysterious mark on her wrist seemed distant, almost irrelevant, but fate has a way of catching up, even on days of celebration. As Lila and Julian exited the restaurant, stepping into the cool evening air, Lila's attention was drawn to a figure huddled against the wall across the street. A woman, disheveled and frail, her head bowed low, her hands clutching a tattered blanket, sat shivering against the cold. Something about her stirred an unexpected compassion in Lila. Without hesitation, she turned to Julian. "Dad, can we help her, please?" Julian followed her gaze, understanding the instinctive kindness that had been nurtured in her since birth. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a few bills. "Of course, Lila. Here." Lila approached the woman cautiously, holding out the money with a gentle smile. The woman looked up, her eyes wide with shock at the unexpected gesture. And then, as her gaze fell on Lila's wrist, the world seemed to tilt on its axis. The winged mark, the very symbol that had guided Lila's path, was there, glowing faintly in the dim streetlight. Recognition flashed across the woman's face, followed by disbelief, and then shock. She staggered backward, clutching her chest, her eyes filling with tears as a gasp escaped her lips. "No, it can't be," she whispered, her voice trembling. And then, without warning, she collapsed, fainting onto the cold pavement. Lila screamed, her heart pounding in terror. "Dad, Dad!" she cried, rushing to the woman's side. Julian was immediately at her side, lifting the woman carefully into his arms and checking for any signs of life. Relief washed over him as he felt the faint warmth of breath. She was alive, just unconscious. Without wasting a second, Julian carried her to the car, with Lila following closely, holding the woman's hand and murmuring soothing words. The drive to the hospital was tense, every second stretching into an eternity as Julian navigated the streets with practiced urgency. Lila stayed by the woman's side, brushing back her hair, holding her hand and whispering, "It's okay, you're safe now. Don't worry." Even in the midst of chaos, Lila felt a strange, unexplainable connection to the woman. Something deep within her stirred, a sense of familiarity, of recognition, of belonging, that she could not yet understand. She continued to comfort the woman as the hospital staff took over, watching anxiously as she was admitted for observation. Julian's mind raced. He had never seen anything like this. The wing's mark had always been a mystery, but its recognition by this woman suggested a truth he could not yet grasp. He looked at Lila, her concern evident, and felt a surge of protectiveness. She had already endured so much. The abandonment, the questions, the search for her past. And now, the past itself had arrived at their doorstep, in the form of a woman who seemed inexplicably tied to Lila's fate. Lila, for her part, could not shake the feeling that this encounter was somehow meant to happen. She had spent her life imagining the mother she had never known, the one who had left her in that alley, the one who might explain the meaning of the wings. And now, here she was, frail and shocked, yet undeniably familiar. Lila stayed by her side, helping the nurses and holding her hand, feeling a mixture of fear, hope, and anticipation that left her heart racing. For Julian, the events of the night were equally surreal. The woman's recognition of the mark, the fainting, the hospital, all of it pointed to a story he had yet to hear, a piece of Lila's life that had been hidden from both of them. But he knew one thing for certain. Whatever truth awaited, he would face it alongside her, protecting her, guiding her, and loving her through it all. By the next morning, the woman had regained consciousness. Lila, exhausted but attentive, stayed by her side, holding her hand and offering gentle words of comfort. She still felt the strange magnetic bond that had drawn her to this woman, a bond that went beyond understanding, beyond reason. Julian watched silently, recognizing that this moment would change everything, the past, the present, and the future of their lives together. The hospital room was quiet, save for the soft beeping of monitors and the muted sounds of nurses outside. Lila continued to sit beside the bed, tracing the contours of the winged mark on her own wrist, feeling the warmth of its significance in ways she could not yet articulate. And in that quiet, charged space, the threads of destiny began to weave together, setting the stage for revelations that would shake their world and redefine the meaning of family, love, and forgiveness. The next morning, sunlight streamed softly through the tall windows of Julian's penthouse, casting a warm glow across the room where Isabella lay resting. She had regained consciousness the previous night, and although her eyes were open now, her body remained fragile, her breathing shallow but steady. Julian had insisted that she stay, providing her with food, warmth, and quiet, knowing that even the simplest comforts could mean everything to someone who had lived as she had. Lila had not left her side since dawn. She hovered at the edge of the bed, holding Isabella's hand gently, brushing back strands of hair from her face, murmuring words of comfort and encouragement. Something in the way Isabella responded, the tiny, almost imperceptible movements of her fingers, the faint exhalations of relief, stirred a feeling in Lila she could not yet name. It was familiarity. It was recognition. It was home. Julian observed quietly from the corner of the room, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He had always known that Lila's past was a mystery, a shadow that hovered behind the warmth of their life together. But he had never imagined that the woman lying before them, fragile, exhausted, yet undeniably alive, would be the key to understanding that past. And yet, as he watched Lila's eyes track every breath and movement, he realized the truth he had suspected but not allowed himself to fully confront. This woman, Isabella, was intimately connected to Lila's life in ways they were only beginning to understand. Isabella stirred, her eyes fluttering closed for a moment before opening again. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice raspy but gentle. She looked around, confusion shadowing her delicate features. Julian moved closer. "You're safe now," he said softly. "You're at my home. You're going to be okay." She nodded faintly, taking in her surroundings, and then her gaze fell upon Lila. The young girl knelt beside her, holding her hand tightly, eyes wide and attentive. Something in Isabella's chest constricted. She could feel it immediately, deeply, instinctively. There was something about this child, not just her innocence, her eyes, or the gentle strength she carried, but something profound and unexplainable that tethered her to Isabella in ways words could not yet capture. After a few hours of quiet, Isabella spoke again, her voice trembling. Who is this child?" Julian hesitated for a moment, then said, "Her name is Lila. She's my daughter, or at least the daughter I raised. She was abandoned as a baby." The words seemed to pierce Isabella like a blade. Her hands trembled, and she pulled them close to her chest as though trying to shield her heart from the pain that had been decades in the making. She looked at Lila again, and the tears that had been held back for years spilled over. "Lila," she whispered, voice breaking. "It can't be. It can't be you." Lila's eyes widened, sensing the emotion, sensing the raw truth in Isabella's words. Who are you?" she asked softly, though her voice carried more curiosity than fear. Isabella drew in a shaky breath. I am your mother," she said finally, the words escaping like a confession, a release, a prayer all at once. Lila froze, Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the frail woman before her, searching for understanding, searching for a thread of the past that had always been hidden. "My mother?" she whispered, barely audible. "But I thought—" "You left me." The words were like stones in the air, heavy and unyielding. Isabella's eyes filled with anguish. "Yes," she admitted, tears streaming freely now. "I left you. I had to—" "I couldn't let you stay there. Your father, Thomas, he was a man filled with anger, with cruelty, with habits that would have destroyed your life. He drank, he gambled, he beat me, and I could not let you grow up in that world. I had to save you." Lila's chest tightened, the anger she had carried since adolescence flaring up like wildfire. "You left me? You abandoned me?" she exclaimed, the words trembling but fierce. You didn't even try to keep me safe." Isabella flinched at the intensity, but she did not shy away. "I know," she said, her voice breaking. "I know it seems unforgivable, but I did it to save you from a life of pain, a life filled with misery and fear. I left you in the alley because I prayed someone good, someone like Julian, would find you and give you the life I could not. I had nothing else to give, nothing else to offer. I trusted in God, in fate, in hope." Lila stared at her mother, tears welling in her eyes, conflicting emotions roiling inside her. For years she had imagined the cruelty of the parents who had left her. She had nurtured the anger, the resentment, the bitter questions that haunted her. And now, faced with the reality, she felt those feelings collide with an unfamiliar current, something softer, fragile and trembling, the spark of understanding, the possibility of forgiveness, and even gratitude. Julian, standing nearby, watched silently, sensing the delicate balance of emotions in the room. He had raised Lila with love and care, yet he knew that this moment, this revelation, was critical. He would not intervene, not yet. This was Lila's encounter with truth, raw and unfiltered. Isabella continued, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking any louder would shatter the fragile bridge being built between past and present. "After I left you, life became very hard for me. Thomas, your father, he didn't stop. He owed money, he gambled, he drank, and eventually he was killed. Men came for him because of debts he could not pay. In some ways, it was a relief, but it left me alone, without family, without home, without a way to rebuild. I sold everything I had, every possession, every jewel, every memory I could spare just to survive. And I ended up here, on the street, broken, lost, praying one day you might find me again." Lila's eyes filled with tears, and she reached for her mother's hands. The frail, cold fingers of Isabella were enveloped in Lila's warmth. For the first time, Lila felt the truth of her mother's love, flawed, desperate, but undeniable. The anger flared and ebbed, replaced slowly by empathy, by a dawning understanding of the impossible choices her mother had faced. "Why? Why this mark?" Lila asked, looking at the wings on her wrist, tracing the delicate curves with her finger. "Why did you leave me?" "With this?" Isabella smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. This was my gift to you," she said softly. "These wings, they were a promise that one day you would rise above the pain, that you would fly free from the life you never should have known. They were a symbol of hope, of freedom, and a way for me to leave a piece of myself with you, so you would never forget that someone loved you, even when I could not hold you." The words struck Lila with profound intensity. The mark she had carried, mysterious and beautiful, suddenly made sense. It was not merely a symbol. It was a message, a connection, a lifeline between her and the mother she had longed to know. Her anger did not vanish entirely, but it softened, tempered by the realization that her mother had acted out of love, disguised as sacrifice. Julian approached slowly, placing a gentle hand on Lila's shoulder. "She saved you in the only way she could," he said quietly. "And now, she's here, alive with us." Lila nodded, her gaze still fixed on Isabella. I think I understand," she whispered, voice breaking. "I don't know if I can forgive, but I understand why you did it. You saved me." Isabella's tears fell freely, mingling with relief and gratitude. "Yes, my love," she said. "I did it for you. Always for you." The three of them sat together in silence, the weight of the past pressing down, yet somehow lifting at the same time. Lila held her mother's hand tightly, feeling the fragile pulse of life, the warmth of connection, and the unspoken promise that despite years of separation, they were finally together. Julian, watching them, felt his heart swell with a mixture of relief, pride, and quiet joy. The bond he had nurtured with Lila now extended to her mother, creating a family forged not by circumstance alone, but by love, sacrifice, and the choices of the heart. In the days that followed, Isabella slowly recovered under Julian's care. Lila stayed close, helping with meals, tending to her comfort, and speaking softly to her as if words could heal decades of pain. Julian observed the two of them, noting the subtle ways Isabella's presence awakened a new depth in Lila. A curiosity about life, a hunger for understanding, a compassion born from shared experience. At night, Lila would trace the wings on her wrist, feeling them as a reminder of the bond that had guided her life from the very beginning. She realized that the mark was more than a symbol. It was a bridge between past and present, between loss and love, between pain and hope. And for the first time in her life, Lila felt a sense of completeness. She had her father, Julian, who had loved her unconditionally. She had her mother, Isabella, who had sacrificed everything for her survival. And she had herself, strong, compassionate, and ready to embrace the future, no matter what secrets it still held. The days that followed Isabella's recovery were filled with quiet moments that Lila cherished. She had grown used to seeing her mother, now safe and cared for, around their home. It was surreal at first. The woman who had abandoned her as a baby now sat across the breakfast table, frail yet undeniably alive, smiling softly at the chatter of their small, lively family. Julian watched them both, noticing the subtle ways Isabella and Lila mirrored each other. The gentle tilt of the head, the way their eyes sparkled when speaking, the warmth in their laughter. For Lila, every moment with her mother was a discovery. She learned about Isabella's past struggles, about the life she had once known, the hardships she had endured, and the quiet strength that had allowed her to survive years of suffering. Lila's anger, while still present in the recesses of her heart, had softened, replaced by empathy and understanding. She began to see her mother not as someone who had abandoned her, but as a woman who had made the impossible choice to save her. Julian, however, noticed something else. He noticed the way his heart stirred whenever Isabella looked at him, the way her laugh seemed to resonate with him more deeply than any sound he had ever known, and the subtle, almost imperceptible glances they exchanged when Lila wasn't watching. He tried to suppress it at first. After all, this was his daughter's mother, and the world already felt complicated enough. But he could not deny the pull, the magnetic attraction that had begun to grow between them. One evening, after Lila had gone to bed, Julian found Isabella in the living room, sitting by the window and staring out at the city lights. The soft hum of traffic below mingled with the gentle rhythm of the night. He approached quietly, his presence gentle but deliberate. "You seem thoughtful," he said softly, leaning against the doorway. Isabella looked up, her eyes meeting his, and for a moment, neither spoke. The weight of their shared experiences, of Lila, of the past, of the delicate, fragile thread that connected them, hung between them. Then she smiled faintly, a smile that was half wistful, half playful. "I've just been thinking," she admitted, her voice low, "about everything. About Lila, about what I've lost, about what I've found. It's a lot to process." Julian stepped closer, careful not to crowd her, but close enough that she could feel his presence, the warmth radiating from him. "It is," he agreed. "But it's also beautiful in a way. Seeing her safe, happy, seeing you safe here. It feels like some miracle." She tilted her head, studying him. "A miracle?" she asked, her tone teasing slightly, though the softness in her eyes betrayed the truth. "You make it sound as if you had something to do with it." He smiled, a faint, crooked smile that made her pulse quicken. "Well, I suppose I did, in a way," he said, his voice dropping just enough to carry a hint of flirtation. "I found a baby in an alley and gave her a chance at life. And somehow that same baby grew into the most remarkable young woman I've ever known. and brought you back into the world at the same time. Isabella's breath caught. I don't know what to say, she murmured, a warmth rising in her chest that she had not felt in years. All of this, it's overwhelming. Julian took a careful step closer, his hand brushing lightly against hers. You don't have to say anything, he whispered. Just let me be here. Let me be someone you can trust. Someone who cares. For a long moment, Isabella's eyes searched his, and then a small, genuine smile curved her lips. I think I can do that, she said softly. That night, the air in the penthouse felt charged, electric, yet tender. They moved closer without even speaking, drawn together by a combination of shared history, deep respect, and an undeniable attraction that neither had been able to deny any longer. Julian reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from Isabella's face, his fingers lingering near her cheek. She leaned into his touch, eyes half closed, and for a moment, the weight of past pain, abandonment, and fear melted away. You're different from anyone I've ever met, Isabella whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Not just kind, but present. Real. Julian smiled softly, his thumb brushing lightly over her wrist. Near the wings, mark she had once given to Lila. I learned from the best, he said quietly, his tone light but filled with warmth. You taught me what courage is, and now, I think I'm ready to learn what love is too. Her lips curved into a faint, playful smirk. Are you trying to flirt with me? She teased, the glimmer of mischief returning to her eyes. He chuckled, a low, warm sound that made her heart flutter. Maybe, he admitted, leaning closer. Or maybe I'm just trying to tell the truth. Their laughter mingled, soft and unguarded, carrying a sense of intimacy that had been years in the making. And in that quiet, tender moment, Julian brushed his lips lightly against hers. A kiss that was both playful and deliberate, gentle yet electric. Isabella responded instinctively, a thrill running through her as the past and present collided in a single, perfect instant. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel desire, to feel connection, to feel hope. Julian's hands rested lightly on her shoulders, then slid down to her arms, his touch grounding, comforting, and exhilarating all at once. They parted just long enough to laugh softly, breathless, the tension of longing dissipating into warmth and tenderness. I never thought I'd feel this way again, Isabella whispered, resting her forehead against his. After everything, I didn't know if it was possible. Julian's hand cupped her cheek, his thumb brushing lightly over her skin. Love, he said softly, doesn't always arrive when we expect it. Sometimes it comes when we've already built everything else. Family, trust, hope, and it fills the spaces we never knew were empty. Days turned into weeks, and their relationship blossomed slowly, naturally. They laughed together, cooked meals together, and even shared quiet evenings reading by the fire while Lila played nearby. Julian and Isabella moved carefully, mindful of Lila, yet their connection deepened with every shared glance, every playful tease and every moment of tenderness. Lila, for her part, noticed the shift immediately. She could see the way her mother's eyes lingered on Julian, and how Julian's hands found subtle ways to brush against Isabella's as they moved around the house. Instead of confusion, Lila felt a swell of happiness, relief that the two most important people in her life could finally find joy together. She had long wished for them both to be happy, and now seeing them share smiles, gentle touches, and playful glances, she knew her wish had come true. One evening, Julian and Isabella shared a quiet moment in the garden, the city lights twinkling below them. Isabella leaned against Julian's chest, listening to his heartbeat, feeling the warmth radiating from him. I never imagined a life like this, she whispered. I never thought I'd find love again, or happiness. And now, Julian interrupted, tilting her chin up gently. Now you have both. You have Lila, you have me, and you have yourself, and I have you. She laughed softly, shaking her head, a blush rising to her cheeks. You make it sound so simple. It doesn't have to be complicated, he said, his voice low and teasing. We've survived worse than awkward beginnings. Besides, he leaned closer, his lips brushing hers again in a soft, lingering kiss. "We've got all the time in the world to figure out the rest." Their laughter mingled with the night air, carried off into the twinkling city below. The warmth between them grew, a soft golden thread binding their hearts together. A connection that had begun with a baby in an alley, continued through years of love and struggle, and now blossomed into a love neither of them had expected, yet both had always been destined to find. Lila watched from the doorway, smiling softly. She felt a deep sense of peace, of completion. The love that had saved her life had now found its own path, and the family she had always dreamed of was fully realized. She knew there would still be questions, challenges, and moments of doubt, but for the first time, everything felt right. Julian turned, noticing her in the doorway. "Come here, Lila," he said, opening his arms. She ran into them, wrapping herself around him, then leaned against Isabella. The three of them stood together, a single unit, bound by love, sacrifice, and the trials they had endured. Julian whispered softly, brushing his lips against Isabella's temple. "We'll figure this life out. Together." Isabella smiled, leaning into his warmth. "Together," she echoed. And as the night settled over the city, Lila traced the wings on her wrist once more. They were no longer just a mark of mystery, abandonment, or loss. They were a symbol of hope, survival, love, and reunion. A promise kept, a journey completed, and a life finally whole. In that golden, quiet moment, the past, present, and future all merged into a single, perfect truth. That love, even born from abandonment and hardship, could heal, flourish, and transform everything it touched. And in the gentle embrace of Julian and Isabella, Lila knew she was truly home. And as the night settled over the city, Lila traced the wings on her wrist once more. They were no longer just a mark of mystery, abandonment, or loss. They were a symbol of hope, survival, love, and reunion. A promise kept, a journey completed, and a life finally whole. In that golden, quiet moment, the past, present, and future all merged into a single, perfect truth. That love, even born from abandonment and hardship, could heal, flourish, and transform everything it touched. Julian and Isabella held each other, Lila between them, forming a bond that seemed unbreakable. For Lila, this was the family she had always dreamed of. For Julian, it was the culmination of years of care, protection, and unconditional love. Yet as the three shared that perfect embrace, Isabella's eyes flicked to Lila's wings mark with a subtle, calculating glint. Alone later, as Julian and Lila slept, she stood by the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. A soft, almost imperceptible smile curved her lips. It worked exactly as planned, she whispered to herself, her voice low, cold, yet eerily calm. Everything, every step, every sacrifice, perfectly aligned. The words carried no warmth, no regret, only satisfaction. Isabella had achieved what she wanted. Her daughter reunited, Julian completely devoted, and a family bound under her watch. But beneath the love, kindness, and tenderness that everyone saw, a subtle darkness lingered, a quiet control, a shadow behind her gentle smile. The camera of the mind might have lingered on her face in that moment, serene, beautiful, but undeniably calculating. And in that final glance, the story of love, reunion, and hope ended, leaving a hint that not everything was as innocent as it seemed. The screen fades to black,